The quantum computer is already coming, and the urgency is right there. And also, nobody know where that Q-day is, and that's why that actually brings the not just the urgency, but also the confusion at the same time. That's an interesting part. For the Bitcoin, each block has like 1 MB, 2 MB, and then you can put in 1,000 transactions. But if you change that to quantum resistant, the same size of the block can only fit in, say, 20 to 30 transactions rather than 1,000 transactions.
Wow. Okay. And that would become an issue for stablecoins too, or anybody who's trying to build a high frequency or high volume, low payment, nano payment kind of payments capability. The numbers are bad. The liquidity is poor. It doesn't trade very well. It's only a 10 million market cap. It's been around for 2 years. I mean, it's from a purely commercial point of view. I think the coin itself has not been a success. Separate the crypto industry and by extension financial institutions that work with stablecoins and other tokenized real world assets has a threat that someone will use quantum computers to break the cryptography around Bitcoin, around any kind of bank account or any sort of private key. I spoke with Duncan Wong, founder of Abelian and a longtime proponent of quantum safe computing. We spoke about what happens if Q-Day ever arrives, the complexities of getting so many different organizations and actors to move in step, and debates about what to do and the trade-offs involved. My name is James DiBiasio, and this is my report. Duncan Wong from Abelian, welcome to the JDB Report.
Thanks for having me, Jane.
So, what for you was the moment when what was your aha moment? When did you realize that enterprise blockchain faced this sort of existential threat?
Yeah, so it's actually related to my so-called previous life. I used to be a professor, as Jim, you know that well. So I used to be teaching computer science and also doing research in cryptography back to the time that I was teaching at City University of Hong Kong. So at that time as a professor, my research at that time was already on, we call it the post-quantum cryptography. Mm-hmm. So post-quantum cryptography means we try to design encryption and digital signature algorithms, which are secure not just against the conventional computer, but also the quantum computer. Assume that one day in the near future, the quantum computer is powerful enough to break all the existing classical public key encryption schemes or digital signature. So actually back to 2017, when I organized an academic conference in Hong Kong called Asia Crypt, I talked to a few other researchers, now happen to be my co-founders of this Abelian project. We were actually thinking about what kind of things that the existing Bitcoin system may not last in the future. We have been thinking about like sustainable layer one blockchain, and two things we actually popped up in my mind at that time. One is how to make that quantum resistant. The second thing is that how to make it a little bit more private. I mean, just think about if you know my wallet address, you know how many BTC I have. But in the enterprise, as you exactly pointed out, I started from crypto-block. Doing enterprise blockchain and privacy is really, really critical. You don't want, despite you would like to have a consortium blockchain, right? But you really want to have some transactions which just stay to your own bank as well as your customers. Despite you do have a consortium system that you have different banks like HSBC, StanChart, they are all in the network. Each individual bank would like to have their own privacy. So that's why back to 2017, it's kind of like a hard moment for us, is to really think about how to upgrade Bitcoin at that time so that it's quantum resistant and also to have certain degree of privacy. Yeah, that's how we began starting the Bitcoin, and found out there have been just so much like legacy issues that as a technical person, we really don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So let's just work on a new chain, and also to kind of like a showcase to the entire world about how to build a quantum resistant as well as privacy preserving chain. That's
So,
where I
yeah.
began.
Well, we'll get to some of that, Duncan, but I want to ask first, when it comes, most of the financial institutions are working on some sort of permissioned ledgers. Some of them are experimenting with Ethereum or other permissionless public chains. Um, Either way, when it comes to these issues around privacy, for example, is one that you cited. When it comes to the issues around post-quantum cryptography, what is it that banks get or don't get? Do you have a sense that they
Mm.
are on top of this? I think we've seen some of the big banks like JP Morgan, HSBC have been active in this, but is there still a gap in terms of either time frame or understanding or expectation?
I think nowadays it's really getting better. People in the financial institutions, they are already pretty aware of it. Whether they have already taken actions like what you just mentioned, like JP Morgan, HSBC, they have been very active on that. Other banks, they are definitely setting up task forces that we have been seeing in order to really study and get involved into it. The government is actually helping a lot over here. So, for example, the US government, they have the standardization body called NIST, NIST, and they have this standard, and the standard was out back to 2024. Last year, they also had a mandate, um, basically mandating all the federal government agencies to get rid of non-quantum resistant encryption schemes 4 years from now. So by 2030, if you want to set up a new system in federal government, you have to use a post-quantum algorithm. And also think about, say, nowadays, if you use, say, Google Chrome, the browser is already supporting quantum resistant.
Right.
So it's all about the server side, that if you want
Yeah.
the quantum resistant channel, the servers need to be upgraded. So I would say right now the banks are aware of it, but still, some of them are still saying that, or still asking like when quantum computer will really become a thing. But I would just say when it's really the thing, it's already too late. So
Right.
it's not like Y2K thing. We have a very clear hard deadline, and then we can just plan ourselves until the Y2K to do the countdown. So that's why the urgency is there, I would
Yeah.
say.
There's also the issue, which is complicated with quantum, which is that we have to assume that bad actors have already harvested as much data as they can, and they're just waiting for an opportunity to be able to break the cryptography, but the data itself may already be in their hands. So,
Mhm,
are there ways for existing? I mean, you're building a new blockchain from scratch. But if we're dealing with stable coins, or if we're dealing with a DLT system that financial institutions are already using, is there a way, particularly on the permissionless side, is there a way for these things
mhm,
uh, to move in time to
mhm,
protect the system, the network, the data that's on there? How do you see that difference between
mhm,
the legacy blockchains and
mhm.
anything that's new?
Yeah, so let me share a little bit about my own opinion about the way I think can be a possible way
Mhm.
for us to move towards the quantum resistant. Just use, say, Bitcoin as an example. For Bitcoin, we have different wallet types, right? Like back to Satoshi Nakamoto, we have that magic number, like pay to public key, right? P
Right.
to PK. And then gradually we have SegWit, we have some other kinds of wallet types.
Right. The
So all those
Taproot
wallet
upgrade and all
types,
that. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, the latest one is the pay to Taproot TR. So if you look at all these wallet types, they are all based on conventional public key cryptography. We usually just call it the elliptic curve crypto systems, ECDSA. And yes, ECDSA is not secure against quantum attacks. So in order to make, say, Bitcoin quantum resistant, conceptually, you may say, hey, let's just add one more water type. So in addition to that, like P2 PK, P2 TR, and all that, let's think about adding one more water type. But that water type, the underlying signature scheme, is no longer going to be used by no longer going to be elliptic curve. Say it's going to be like lattice based or hash based, that kind of like NIST standardized signature schemes. So assume that we have that technology introduced into Bitcoin, implemented. Then the next thing is actually the hard part. The difficult part is that how to convince everybody to migrate and move their BTCs from their existing wallets to this new wallet type. And this new wallet type is going to have all the digital signature generated using this post-quantum algorithm. This is actually the hard part. The reason is that some of those wallets that the owners have already lost their private keys, they don't remember their recovery phrase. So how to handle that case? And that case is not a rare case.
Right.
Right. So like according to some of the stacks, 3 million BTCs that they don't have their private key on hand.
Not to mention
So there are,
Satoshi's own stack, which may well be part of that.
yeah, that's right, exactly. So Satoshi has 1.1 million BTC, and nobody knows whether that wallet, right, has the private key really held by Satoshi Nakamoto or not. So that's one issue. Another issue is actually really about the confidence level, about this new wallet type. As I mentioned, this new wallet type, the underlying is a post-quantum algorithm. And whether this post-quantum algorithm is really secure or not, nobody knows.
Right.
So we really need some time to build up the confidence in the community.
Yeah. How do you do that, Duncan?
Yeah,
Because it is kind of a
yeah.
shot in the dark. I mean, it's kind of, we won't know it until it happens or it doesn't happen, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good question. A lot of people are debating about that. Of course, I have my own opinion regarding that.
Which is,
There's one terminology,
yeah.
it's called cryptographic agility.
Okay.
So CR, cryptographic agility basically means that you have a wallet, but the underlying signature scheme, you don't need to choose one particular underlying signature scheme, but you have a basket of or a collection of post-quantum signature schemes.
Okay.
So you don't need to choose a camp. Say, for example, Abelian is using lattice-based cryptography, and some other technology they are actually using, say, hash-based. Why don't we include all those algorithms into the kind of like the underlying algorithm set for that water type? And this kind of concept is called cryptographic agility, which means if, say, lattice space is totally broken, then you can quickly switch to hash base. Of course, there will be some technical difficulty or complexity over there. But conceptually, if you imagine that underlying algorithm can support multiple cryptographic algorithms, then you have this kind of flexibility to change.
Okay.
So at this moment, I would say the industry is still focusing on how to switch to quantum resistant, and we are yet to debate about, hey, which algorithm that we should choose. And the part that I would like to propose to the industry is that let's go for this cryptographic agility, and instead of debating which algorithm that we should choose, let's just pick a few of them, put into the basket, and then for every single transaction we signed using, say, all of them. Or if you have a particular preference, you signed maybe all your transactions using just 1 to 2 digital signatures. Yeah.
We now have all these stable coins that are being, licensed in Hong Kong, right? By
Mhm.
bank or bank-owned companies. Where are they with this, play together in the sandbox to achieve a result, get everybody on the same page? Based on your experience, what has to happen and how far
Mhm.
are we?
So speaking of quantum resistance, I think we are not there at all. We are still at a very early stage, understanding about the impact of stablecoin towards the society, what kind of actual use cases would be best used, and how to harmonize, so-called, the stablecoin together with other kinds of payment means and other digital assets. What would be the best way? So about quantum resistance, I have to say, is still kind of like the topic that not so many people are talking about yet. When we particularly talk about the stablecoin or RWA tokenization thing, but I don't think it is I'm not sure whether it is an urgency or not, but I have to say, hopefully we will have some kinds of sandboxes that we can actually demonstrate how this kind of, for example, stablecoin or tokenization can be run in a very efficient way while at the same time can still making use of those smart contract automation as well as AI technologies to use it, while at the same time embracing this quantum resistance. Because quantum resistance, I would say, is kind of like the layer zero, or it's even just part of the operating system. Thinking about the transition from elliptic curve to quantum resistant, this is actually the hard part. If you build everything just like Abelian, if you build everything from quantum resistant on day one, it's actually relatively straightforward. And as I mentioned, the 3 points before, the most challenging part is really the transition. It's really thinking about how to make that fair in terms of the transition.
But what lessons can we learn from the consortium experience in the early enterprise blockchain industry? Is there anything there that we can say, let's not do it this way, or let's do it, but do it better?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I would say the incentive, the motivation, and how painful that so-called hard problem it is. So first of all, we do have the problem statement. You have reported a lot about the trade finance consortium blockchains in the past, and the problem statement is very clear. Has always been very clear. But how painful it is without that consortium blockchain, that's actually the question. So if you think about a world that this hard problem is really not something that you can bypass, then it's actually very hard to make the whole thing come true. And then right now, the quantum computer is kind of different, in my opinion, is that the quantum computer is already coming, and the urgency is right there. And also, nobody know where that Q day is, and that's why that actually brings not just the urgency, but also the confusion at the same time. That's an interesting part. So that's why I think I myself have been working in this field for a long time, especially like learning the hard way from building consortium blockchain. I would say I actually personally think that this is also some obligation to myself to do more education as well, so that everybody will have that kind of momentum and the motive, basically, to take the action. Yeah, otherwise, I think it's really hard.
When you take all these very computationally heavy solutions, lattice-based cryptography, zero knowledge proofs, and then you add on the quantum solutions and algos on top. With all that computation, if we want to also have something that's scalable and fast and sort of transactional grade, is privacy at stake? What are the compromises that we have to think about?
If we don't have the privacy part, if you just replace the elliptic curve with lattice space, I would say the blockchain system can still be relatively efficient. Given that, for example, if you have a well-designed blockchain systems that you can borrow from, say, Ethereum chains, Solana, all that major chains, that they all have different approaches, but they are all trying to solve the scalability problem. And if you think about all those chains, and then think about if we can solve the transition problem about upgrading them to quantum resistant, it's actually not that hard. Technically, it's not that hard. Still, of course, you need to deal with the transition problem. Still need to deal with how to migrate those digital assets to quantum resistant wallets. But when we put in privacy, it's a different story. Putting in the privacy, we need to make use of more advanced cryptographic techniques, say the lattice-based zero knowledge proof or hash-based zero knowledge proof. that's going to be very computationally intensive. And of course, the trade-off is going to be on the performance part. So, so for example, just imagine, say, for the Bitcoin, each block has like 1 MB, 2 MB, and then you can put in 1,000 transactions. But if you change that to quantum resistant, the same size of the block can only fit in, say, 20 to 30 transactions rather than 1,000 transactions.
Wow. Okay.
So you can imagine,
Yeah.
yeah, the downgrade of the performance.
Yeah. And then we go back to the problem that we had with Bitcoin itself, which was the network is super slow and doesn't work very well as, I mean, it works as an asset, but it doesn't work as money, right? And that would become an issue for stablecoins too, or anybody who's trying to build a high frequency or high volume, low payment, nano payment kind of payments capability. If they've got to put this kind of security on top, it could be a problem.
Yes. So that's why right now we have more kind of like consensus in the industry is that we break the entire design into layers.
Mhm.
So about quantum resistance, it's kind of like a layer one job. We make sure the layer one has this kind of quantum resistance, and then we can always have kind of like a rolled up to layer two or maybe a side chain.
Mhm.
And those chains would take care of the smart contract as well as the scalability. And we leave that quantum resistance to the layer one to take care of it.
Mhm.
So imagine we have all the transactions they are running on layer two, do all the complicated smart contract stuff, and then we compress them, roll that up, and then put that into layer one, and layer one will ensure the quantum resistance so
Okay.
that we can have this kind of architecture to achieve both security, decentralization, as well as scalability.
Okay. Because I know there's some people in the crypto world that would like to see the settlement layer do all of the stuff that they're skeptical about L2s and bridges and the vulnerabilities that they create. But
Yeah,
it
you are
sounds like
right. So
what you're saying is that that's you know you in your opinion, and if I understand it right, Duncan, we're gonna have to go that way regardless.
Um, I would not say this is the only solution, but definitely I'm kind of opposed the idea of putting everything into one chain
Right.
because because I'm actually thinking about the principle over here is to solve the trilemma, security, decentralization, as well as scalability, the blockchain trilemma. And this is the principle. I try to solve this problem, and I don't have any limitation to myself, like running everything into one chain. If there is a way to achieve all this and solve this trilemma, I will go for it.
Okay.
So to me, my design philosophy is that, okay, this is the most elegant way so far, to my understanding. Break the whole thing into modules, divide and conquer. That's basically my approach.
Right. But
Yeah.
we're still living within the restrictions of that trilemma. That hasn't gone away.
You are right. So we are all trying to solve this problem. As you just mentioned, for the blockchain system, it's already pretty slow. And that's why we have some proposals like Lightning Protocol, right? And then they basically group the transactions into batches and
Yeah.
try to achieve like 1,000 transactions per second. So technically, definitely there will be some solutions. And the most challenging part is to how to market it, how to educate the market or the industry to find the best use cases for them.
Can you crystal ball this for me? Let's say in 2 years from now, somebody announces that they have indeed figured out how to break an elliptical curve, and they can now begin to see some blockchain accounts on Bitcoin network, say. So it's Q day. Um, what
Uh-huh.
happens in the marketplace, broadly speaking? Like, do you have people gamed this out to figure out like where assets move, if there's some sort of flight to quality and what that means, um, how much is salvaged, or just the impact on financial systems? Has anybody kind of gamed that
Mm.
out?
I've been thinking about that all the time. A lot of scenarios might happen, and none of them may come out really like a higher chance than the other.
Mhm.
One thing is that before that Q day, we gracefully upgrade our systems, just like many other enterprise systems. like the example I mentioned, Google Chrome, right? They already get that ready, and then the servers, the say the OpenSSL software library that most of the web servers are based on, um, already supports quantum resistant cryptography. So I think the majority of the systems they are okay. Um, they will be ready before the Q day. So I don't have any issues on that. But there might be some of the legacy systems that, because of the budget issue, because of the organization issue, they are basically left behind. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. But the problem is that how much value that systems are still carrying. If the value of that system is actually very minimal, no hackers will be interested in. They may still alive, stay okay even after the Q day. So it's really depending on how valuable that system is. If you think about Bitcoin, right now we are getting more and more heated in debating how to upgrade. Two scenarios over there. One scenario is really like we have the consensus say set the deadline 2 years from now, and for all the asset, all the BTC, they have to transfer to a quantum resistant wallet um, before that particular date. This is one scenario, and then once the Q day is out, then all those failed to migrate tokens will be kind of like serialized, no value. That's one scenario. Another scenario is that the community does not have any consensus on it. And we just loosely upgrade the entire Bitcoin system to have a quantum resistant wallet. And it's up to each of us to transfer our assets to this quantum resistant wallet. Then during the Q day moment, there will be a huge disturbance through the market, for sure. Suddenly 1.1 million maybe Satoshis BTC come alive. We have no idea whether that's really Satoshi Nakamoto or some state-owned hackers that they are moving around that BTC. So either of this scenario will be more likely than the other. And I think the community is really like need to work harder to find out a consensus. Otherwise, we are going to face that. And some people may say, and I personally already also believe so, is that maybe there is a turbulence. And after the turbulence, if a particular project or a product really has value, then the value will still come up even after this kind of like catastrophic event. Yeah, this is just my yeah
Well, the
my
market
my
will
real.
reprice. I mean, the market will reprice. There'll be a
You are
flood of
right.
supply. People may not trust those coins, which could lead into all kinds of other compliance issues. But the market will reset that price. But that will be painful for everybody. Um,
Agree.
and then, what does success look like? I mean,
Mm,
given it's a fuzzy problem, and
mm.
we have kind of fuzzy answers,
Yeah.
do you have any hard definition of success?
Yes. Success is that nothing happened during the Q day. Everything works as normal. That's it.
Okay.
So to elaborate further about that is that during the Q day, the we call it the cryptographic relevant quantum computing (CRQC). Right. The CRQC becomes everywhere. Like all the major countries, they already has that kind of technology. They can build the CRQC easily, but there is no major assets that they are still relying on elliptic curve cryptography. That's
Right.
the success case for the entire industry.
And last question for you, Duncan, and thanks for your time. With Abelian, you are part of a number of companies that have decided to build from scratch rather than try to go the way of reforming the status quo. There's movements in both sides. Um, but when I look at the basic stats for Abelian's coin or for others like from Quantum Resistant Ledger and some other companies that have been also trying to build new from scratch blockchains with that are quantum ready. Um, the numbers are bad. The liquidity is poor. It doesn't trade very well. It's only a 10 million market cap. It's been around for 2 years. I mean, it's from a purely commercial point of view. I think today in May of or June, sorry, 2026, the coin itself has not been a success separate from the technical capabilities that you and your team have. So how do you think about that? And this is true for the other companies that have also tried to build new sort of quantum ready Bitcoin type models.
Yep.
So just what's the takeaway from that, and what has to happen for you to be able to create a commercially viable business around this, at least from the coin perspective?
Sure. Yeah. So um, there are several points that I would like to share over here. The first point is that if we look at Bitcoin or even some of those privacy coins like Monero, Zcash, um, each of them actually takes years before the market is aware of it, before some real use cases um, are being able to establish. So first of all, this is the background of it, and I totally understand about that. But having said that, it doesn't mean that I'm not frustrated on it, right? So as a founder, I have been working on this for years, at least 4 years by now. We have been trying our best to, first of all, to make the project sustainable. So we are happy to have our investors. They have been supporting us, and we recently closed a round. In addition to that, we are still thinking that Abelian is a project to showcase the capability of this technology. The longer it takes, the more credible we are in terms of our technology. Since 2022 till now, the system has been around being scrutinized by hackers, by developers, by researchers on all these years. So we are basically building up this kind of credibility, not just on quantum resistance, but also on privacy preserving. So that's why we are also receiving more and more requests coming from different enterprises on how to make use of Abelian technology on some of the enterprises use case. So in short, we are still working very hard, and the price is not reflecting. And this is the reality of proof of work chain, because we are basically just relying on all the miners, and we are also the miners to mine the coins. We are not like airdropping any of the tokens to ourselves. But at the same time, we really need to be more proactive introducing this technology, this great technology, and find out some real use cases.
Right.
So yeah, we are still hand on there, and love to share more with you, James. And hopefully in the near future, we can have another catch up. And hopefully at that time, the price will also reflecting a little bit. And we can also talk about the another side of this chain.
It seems to me, Duncan, that you've got a little bit of a paradox, because the best thing for price action would be if there was some sort of Q-day disaster, because then your coin would be ready when others may not be, and you would receive a lot of money in. But at the same time, that's not the result that we're aiming for. And so it'd sort of be a failure in the sense that we haven't actually got the industry to move to a safer place in time. So I don't know which one you want, but
Yeah.
I'm going to go with, I'd prefer we not have a disaster. But at any rate,
yeah, I really don't want to have that kind of disaster happen on that. While at the same time, I think one thing I would like to highlight over here is that we are still thinking that this is really, Abelian is kind of like a connector. As I mentioned, we show the credibility. We have been around for many years with this technology, and we are actually showcasing this technology to more enterprise use cases. And another point is that Abelian might be able to be a connector to other chains, just like what we are currently building this layer 2 Q-Day, to showcase that Q-Day can actually roll up their transactions to Abelian, so that Abelian can provide the quantum resistance and Q-Day can focus on their EVM smart contract use case as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at any rate, it sounds like you've got a lot going on. Good luck with the project. Even if the facts are still not yet proven, if nothing else, it's a great hedge. So perhaps people in the market should be putting on some call options. At any rate, Duncan Wong, thank you so much for joining me on the JDB Report.
Thank you very much. Always great to be talking to you. Thanks.